Is my face in focus?
Seeing if this camera is capturing my beautiful wife's face. It looks good. Beautiful. Most beautiful woman in the universe right here.
Oh my goodness.
Gorgeous woman in focus here on camera.
Love you.
Love you.
Hello y'all, and welcome to YoungFolk Knits. It is officially the first day of 2024. So I thought I will show y'all what I have finished. So I do have a few finished objects and also some works in progress. So stick around and see what I'm up to. Hello y'all, and welcome back to YoungFolk Knits. My name is Casey, and on this channel I really like to chat all about my love of fiber arts. So it's heavily focused on knitting, but I also like to share about sewing, spinning. Sometimes I dabble in crochet. I haven't done a very good job of that this year, but occasionally. And I also sometimes share a little bit about living on a small farm in Arkansas, where my husband and myself and our children are beekeepers. We love raising gardens and chickens and animals and just spending time outdoors here in the foothills of the Ozarks. So if any of that sounds like it might be your cup of tea, then make sure and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on any new video content. It is officially January, and I'm wondering how long it's going to take me to start writing 2024 instead of 2023. You know when that was really bad was two different times. One, whenever I used to write checks. You know, now people don't really write checks anymore. But whenever I would write a check, I would always put the last year's date forever, for like half the next year. It was always really bad. And then also, before we switched to digital charting at the hospital, everything was mainly everything was mainly written. So all the charts were written. There were these big literal charts for each patient full of paper, and we would write down, of course, the date and the time for everything that we did, and it was so hard to switch over to a new year. And a lot of times I would actually be working New Year's Day. Whew, those were tough times. My brain does not like to adjust to change. Okay, I'm also gonna talk a little bit about how old I am. I remember so well 1999, whenever the year was turning to 2000, Y2K, and everybody thought the world was going to shut down. All the computers were going to quit, electricity was going to go out, you know. The world was basically going to end as we knew it because computer systems weren't able to compute to the next year. And I remember I was, how old was I then? I was like 10 or 11, and it was so exciting to see what was going to happen. We're all still here though. It was all okay. If only that was our biggest problem. Anyway, that has nothing to do with fiber arts. Speaking of fiber arts, I do have two finished objects today, and I feel like it's been a while since I've had a finished object. So I'm excited. One of them is something that you have seen me work on for a few episodes, so I'm going to start with that one. I have finished the Manhattan hat by Tori Yu, who is Tori Knits NYC on Instagram. And I have to tell y'all, I absolutely love it. So this is knit in yarn that was, sorry, my dog. So this was knit in yarn that was very kindly gifted to me from Susie by Fiber MacGyver. I had ordered a set for a hat for the Pressed Flowers hat actually, and she very kindly gave me this set as well, which is one strand of her Superwash Sport merino base and one strand of her Surrey lace. And guess what the name of this color is, y'all? It's Casey. She actually named this colorway after me, which just absolutely warmed my heart. I thought that was so sweet. It is one of my favorite colors. I love dusty everything actually, but I especially love this dusty lilac pink purple color. I just think that the color turned into the most beautiful hat. I also think it would actually be a really pretty sweater. But this hat has not been blocked yet. I'm gonna go ahead and try it on anyway for you. So this is pretty much a worsted weight gauge, and I think that the pattern calls for you to knit this on US 5 needles, but I could not find my 5s, which is going to be a recurring theme in this episode. So I grabbed some 6s and it worked out really well. I think because this was a sport with a Surrey, the 6s made a very nice fabric. And I have a big head, and this turned out, you know, I think it was good. I wouldn't want it to be any smaller. So I really love it. I am allergic to mohair, so I'm so glad that I can use Surrey, and it's not itchy at all. It feels very warm. I opted for the single fold. You can do, I think you can do no fold or double fold. Well, you can do whatever you want, but the pattern does have those options in it. I like a single fold. It's just not cold enough here for like a double folded hat. I mean, whew, that would be hot around the ears in Arkansas. But I am so pleased with this, and I love the shaping. It has some super fun shaping at the crown. I did then do a Kitchener stitch at the very top, which I think could be evened out or straightened out with blocking. So you can also have the option for the decreases to be worked inside out, and that enables you to do the decreases with knits instead of doing the decreases on purls. I wouldn't mind to do either one, but I think that my knit decreases are a little bit neater because I use a little bit less yarn. I mean, they're pretty much the same, but I just decided to go with that. So then I did the Kitchener stitch while still working it that way. And so when it was done, all I did was flip it over, and I wove my ends in on the right side. I can't even tell where I did it. It blended very well into the ribbing. But I did it on the right side so that whenever I flipped it up, it would be hidden under the brim. So very happy, super drapey. Wow, what a beautiful sweater that would make. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Susie. This is going to be worn for the rest of the winter. I'm very, very happy with it. Okay. Next finished object is something that knit up in literally 2 days, and it's a full garment. All right, y'all. I finished the Kaleidoscope Sweater, which is a pattern from Knit Collage, and I used a kit from Knit Collage as well with the Sedona color as the base. So this is a sweater knit up in super bulky yarn. It's at least super bulky. I don't know if there's something above that. But super bulky yarn, and you can get a kit that has all of these other mini skeins of different kinds of art yarn. So I got 3, well, let me tell you what size I made. I made the size 5. And for the size 5, I got 3 skeins of the main color, and I used every last bit of it. In fact, I ran out, and I'll tell you in a minute where I ran out of the main color. And then it came with mini skeins. So, sorry, I'll try not to let it crinkle. This is what I have left over. And I'm surprised by how much I had left over. I was a little bit nervous that these mini skeins would not go very far. And so I did not do 2-row stripes. I only did single row stripes. And I kind of wish I would have done 2-row stripes. I'm not sure if I would have had enough for 2 rows because, you know, this one I didn't even use this color. But so this one, for instance, this would have had to last me a whole nother row on the body plus a row on each sleeve. So I'm not sure I actually would have had enough, but I would have liked the look a lot. This, I love this color. This is the same base as my main color, just a different color. And then I also got things in the kit like this, which is fabric. So there were stripes with this fabric in it. And then there were some that are called daisy chain because it has these little flowers spun into it, which honestly, I'm not a huge fan of that. I kind of cut those off when I came to the flowers on most of it, but I still see it a few places on the cardigan, and I may or may not leave that. I'm not sure yet, but let me try it on for you. Okay, so I ended up going for the size 5 and the long sleeves. And that also meant that to do all the stripes, which I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stripes on the body, I needed to do an extra stripe on each sleeve because it went past the length of the body. This did block out quite a bit in length compared to pre-blocking. I would say I got 2 inches at least. I need to remeasure it again. So this is knit flat, and it's knit on US 17s. Which millimeter is that? Is that a 12 millimeter? I think it is. So they're very large needles, and my hands were kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do with these big things. But it does knit up super quickly. I knit up the entire thing in 2 days. So you knit the entire garment, and then I knit the sleeves. And then what you do is you go back with your main color and you use a large crochet hook and you single crochet around the entire sweater edge to give you the finishing collar. You can even add buttonholes, all of that for the garment. I ran out of yarn whenever I started at the bottom corner, went all the way up, went around the collar, and then came all the way back down, and I ran out of yarn. I did not have enough to go around the bottom all the way or to do the sleeves. Sleeves, I was not worried about. I think they look just fine, especially in this super bulky yarn. The bottom, I would have liked to do the single crochet on, but it's okay. It's fine. It is soft, but it's also a little bit itchy. I may give it as a gift because I think it would look really pretty on my mom. I'm gonna see what she thinks about it. Otherwise, I think this would be really cute styled with jeans and a white t-shirt and some brown clogs or brown mules. Something like that I think would just be, you know, sort of cute and easy. So I do like it. I like the color a lot. I really like how fast it was. And sometimes you just need a win. I've had a lot of unfinished objects, a lot of test knits, a lot of slogs, it feels like, for some things. And I just needed to knit something different, but I wanted to finish something. So I thought this was really nice to have something new on my needles and something that I could finish. So that all was great and made me happy. I will say this yarn is very expensive and it's not something that I will be purchasing on a regular basis, but I thought it was really fun to try. You know, Black Friday, I don't know, my mind just sort of like, I buy things. I'm really glad I got to try it out. I love the finished object. I think it was really fun to knit. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it working up so quickly. I enjoyed the colors. I'm very, very happy with everything about it. Like I said, only negative, it is very heavy. In fact, this is like a full-on jacket or coat for Arkansas more than what I would consider a cardigan. So it is very warm. So let's move on to a few works in progress. So I have a couple of test knits that y'all already know about if you're a returning viewer. I want to start off with my test for Alicia Plummer that we are calling the Noro Sweater. Does not have a name yet. Whoops. Right, so this is my Noro Sweater test knit, which is knit in Noro Madara in the color 22. It's a really nice raglan shaped pullover. It's very oversized and it's knit on US 8 or 5mm needles. Yeah, 5mm needles. I'm having a day with my numbers. It has some shaping in the back. Instead of using short rows, you use another method to just knit back and forth before the raglan is joined in the round, and I think that gives a really nice fit to the neckline. You also have some great 2x2 ribbing, a double folded collar, which I have sewed down, a nice deep yoke. I am testing the size 5, and would y'all like me to try it on? I wasn't planning on it, but I probably should. That would be a good idea. Let me see if I've got some tubing here. Tubing. I always have tubing everywhere. Okay, here's some. I am knitting this on my Chalgu fixed needles, and I'm at the end of a ball, which I've not attached a new one. I honestly have not knit a ton on this week. I'll show you where my progress keeper is. My progress keeper is right here. So let's see, about 3 inches, maybe a little bit, maybe closer to 4. I am wanting to knit my sleeves first before I finish the body, and I need to get a size 8 16-inch because I don't want to do magic loop, and so I'm kind of waiting. This will finish up so quickly. I just need to do it. But I'm waiting on my 8s to get here so that I can do the sleeve first and get a really good idea of how long I want the body at that point. I really, really, really like to try on a sweater with a finished collar and sleeves before I decide on the length, because all of that will change the length of your sweater, the fit. It's gonna pull the sweater down a little bit when you put the sleeves on it. It's going to change where it sets on your neck when you put the collar with it. So that's why I love top down, and I love doing those two things first before I finish my sweater. And that is always very helpful. This looks like it's gonna be really oversized. I have not tried this on yet. I even separated for sleeves before I tried it on. Who am I? I did it based off of measurements though. I know what measurements I like. Whew. This baby looks big. All right, y'all, this is it. As you can see, it's very, very oversized. It's got a nice deep yoke, and I really like the way that the neckline is setting. Got my raglan increases here, and my plan is to have this be like a really oversized, which it is, sort of come down to right here, and then the front I can French tuck into my jeans. Love the feel of this fabric. It's absolutely feeling great around my neck. That made me very excited to try it on and see how much I'm loving it. My 16-inch circulars should be here. Ooh. I don't even think these are 32-inch needles. They're like 24. My 16-inch needles should be here tomorrow, I think. So I'll be able to really get going on the sleeves. So still just making progress on that. I have to say I've sort of been enjoying a few larger gauge knits because they definitely work up faster. And also my entire life I've just been very hot-blooded. I am so hot all the time. I mean, if you knew what we ran our air conditioner at in the summer sometimes, I just literally burn up all the time. And this year, things have been a little bit different. Probably having to do a little bit with my autoimmune and heart issues, but I have just been freezing all the time. I mean, literally freezing. My hands and feet, and I don't know, my circulation's just not that great. And I'm also a little bit anemic, so I'm just very, very cold all the time. And the bigger, thicker, chunkier knits have actually, for the first time in my life, felt really good. And it's been surprising. It's kind of having to make me readjust the way I think about dressing and knitting and clothes that I buy. It's a new adventure. So my other test knit, I'll just show you the back a little bit. My ribbing on US 1 needles that I thought would never end. It's coming along. Okay, so I felt the need to cast on something that I have been wanting to cast on for a while. In fact, I included it in my winter plans video from a few weeks ago, and that is the Snowy Forest pullover, which is a pattern by Midori Hirose. And it is from the Lana magazine issue 10, I believe. It is now available to purchase by itself. I do have the magazine, which I got when it came out. I was so excited for that magazine. I love everything in it, that issue. And I have wanted to make this since it came out. I actually bought yarn for it, which I have shown previously in a really dark, stormy blue-gray color. And it was a sport weight yarn from Madeline Tosh that I was holding, or I was going to hold, with a lace weight Surrey yarn as well. I still have that, and I still think I want to make a snowy forest out of it, but I have also been really desperate to try out the Wandering Flock because I think that Geraldine just has some amazing colors. They're really fun, and I want to try different yarns. I find it exciting and fun to try different yarns with different projects, and the Wandering Flock was a yarn I have never got to work with before. So I saw Megan from Kimchi & Co. on Instagram knit the Snowy Forest in the Wandering Flock worsted base with the color driftwood. And y'all, I fell in love with her sweater. Like I mean, absolutely fell in love with it. And I wanted the exact same sweater. So I got a sweater quantity of the merino worsted in driftwood as well. I think that the rest of my skeins are in the other room. And this weekend, with reckless abandon, I cast on the Snowy Forest. I was so excited to knit this pattern, and I have been talking to Sarah from Craft Me Not Yarn Co. She is going to make it as well, and she started without me, so I had to hurry up and cast on. So this is a very, what feels to me like it would be a very quick knit. It is knit at a gauge, I don't know, I'm trying to remember what the gauge was, but the recommended needles are US 10 or 10.75 for, depending on which yarn you're using. I think for this one, it might have been the 10s. Anyway, it recommends a US 8 for the ribbing, and I could not find my, no, that's right. I don't have a US 8 in 16-inch circulars. That's why I ordered some to use for the sleeves of my sweater. So I didn't have any, and therefore I grabbed some US 7s. And I'm such a loose knitter. I'm very glad that I did because it's perfect. I think if I would have used the 8s, it would have been too big. And what the pattern has you do is knit a double folded collar and then fold it down. I am not doing that. I did not want to do that. I wanted to have a mock neck. That's what I went into it knowing I wanted. So I ended up doing a tubular cast on so that the top would look really nice. And then I read through the pattern, and the pattern does not have short row shaping. So it's this very big, oversized circular yoke pattern that at a certain point you switch from doing circular yoke increases to doing raglan increases. So it's sort of like a compound yoke. It has multiple increasing styles in it, which Midori Hirose also utilizes in her ranunculus pattern. And that's the only other pattern by Midori Hirose I've knit. I've knit multiple ranunculus, and I have found that I love that she includes the raglan increases because I find that fit to be really, really nice for me. So she may actually utilize that style in multiple of her patterns. I mean, she obviously does in this one, but those are the only two that I have made. However, it does not have short row shaping, and I really, really like short row shaping, and I need it because I can't handle the feeling like I'm being choked. And even though this is a mock neck, so it's going to be like up around my neck anyway, I need short row shaping. So this pattern has cables immediately starting after the ribbing. It just happens immediately. And I could have done, so here's the back. And I thought I could have done a section of short row shaping in stockinette, and I think it would have been fine. It would not have looked bad. I have done this before, and I decided to utilize it for this pattern, and that is where I go ahead and add short rows to the bottom of the ribbing if it's this kind of neck. So I don't think it would have worked if it was a double folded collar, but since this was not going to be folded over, I could go ahead and do that. So I added my short rows, which you can see here. I added them to the bottom of my ribbing. So here's a side view of the neck, and you can see that it sort of goes down. There's a lot more ribbing here in the back. So I thought I would share with y'all how I did that in case you might be interested in adding short rows to your ribbing in a pattern that does not have them. You know, this would also work for just plain stockinette. So you could do this and work it in stockinette, or you could do this and work it in your ribbing. So on my very next to last row of ribbing before I finished it, what I did was split my stitches in half. So just for ease, let's say that there's 100 stitches in your neckline. So my beginning of round is the center back here. So I divided my stitches in half, and let's say you have 100 stitches, that would mean half of your stitches are 50. So since my beginning of round is center back, to get to the halfway point where half and half at the front, half at the back, my back stitches are also divided in half. So 50 stitches on the back, that would mean I would work 25 stitches to get to the halfway point on the collar. And what I did was place a stitch marker there, and I did German short rows. I went to the next stitch after my stitch marker, and I worked a double stitch, and I turned and worked back to the beginning of round. Then from my beginning of round, I worked to the other halfway point of my back half stitches, which would be 25 more stitches. I placed a stitch marker, and I went one stitch past that and created a double stitch for my German short row, and then I had my markers placed. So what I did to work my short rows was just based off of the weight of yarn I was using and the number of stitches. If it was a fingering weight yarn, you could do more stitches for each row that you worked past that last stitch. For me, I was working with worsted weight, US 10 needles, 100 stitches total. So what I did was I would work to my double stitch that I had made. I would resolve that double stitch, and then I would work 2 more stitches past it, create another double stitch, and then I would work back the other way. Work to that last stitch I had done, resolve it, work 2 past it, create a double stitch, and go back the other way. And I did that until I had worked, so here's my front. Let's see, you can kind of see. I did it until I had worked to about right here. And it gave me a nice little chunk of, let me see. It gave me a pretty good little chunk of extra fabric there in the back. So I think that's going to really help with my fit. Another thing you could do is add German short rows after the cables before, or wraps and turns. I mean, it doesn't have to be German short rows. You could add any kind of short rows after the cables. You would be getting into the raglan shaping there though. And I just decided I wanted to do it in the ribbing. I thought that would be the easiest. And that's what I did. You can see how the back hangs lower than the front. And I think it's just going to really add a nice fit element. Okay, now let me tell you about how I screwed up on this pattern. I have a really bad habit of overviewing a pattern and feeling like I understand exactly what I'm supposed to do. If it's not something that I'm having to just look at the charts on, then I won't even look at the pattern at all. So I started this, and I knew that the way these cables worked, I would be increasing at each cable in the cable. And I looked at the first cable, and let's just say for ease of use, this is a paid for pattern, so let's just pick a number here. Let's say that there's 10 rounds in each cable. Well, I then proceeded to only knit 10 rounds for every cable, or 10 rows. And I would just do the increase that it called for in the cables for every cable. I did all of that right. My number of stitches is correct, but my length of rows was not correct, because what it actually has you do is for each cable, you're increasing the number of stitches, but you're also doing extra rows on it. And I didn't do that. I did the same amount of rows for each one because I just didn't even look at it. I was being lazy. Ugh, I hate it when I do that. Sometimes I hate myself. Anyway, I have the correct number of stitches, but I don't have the correct number of rows. And I have pretty much come to the end of my cables. So let's say each one I did 10 rows, but you're actually supposed to increase by 2 rows for each one. So I actually have 12 whole rows per se that I did not do. And because of that, what I'm going to do is add another cable at the same rate of 10 rows. And that way I'll only be 2 rows short. And I think that that will be completely fine because this is a very deep yoke as it is. And if I need to, I can adjust with my raglan how many rows I want to do. If it's still too deep, I can do less raglan increases. If it's not deep enough, I can do a few more or just some extra stockinette. So I'm going to put this on some of that tubing and try it on for you guys as well. Okay, so this is the yoke all spread out. Isn't she pretty? I really considered ripping back to about here and, you know, fixing it by knitting the second cable and third and fourth longer. But I didn't want to. So I think I'm going to do what I have already mentioned I wanted to do. All right, y'all, here it is. I think the cables still look okay. Do y'all think they look weird without them getting longer? I think they look fine. And soft, and I love it so much. I really, really love it. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a forever sweater. All right, let me know what y'all think. Do these look weird with them not having been lengthened with each one? I think that they'll be okay. And then on my next one that I want to make with the blue yarn, I can go ahead and make it the correct way. I think it'll be fine though. I think it'll turn out okay. I also have my soft spoken quilt stitch marker, or you can use it as a progress keeper or a stitch marker. I don't know if y'all can see it. Oh, wow, I'm doing a really bad job showing this to you. My goodness. I don't know if y'all saw that or not. I couldn't see the camera, but hopefully you did. Needles. So plan for this. Knit an extra cable to get myself back on track with the correct number of rows, but without increasing in that cable. So I will not be increasing stitches, just length. And then I should be back on track for my size. So the sizing for this, the number of sizes, they don't correspond to what I'm used to. So there's a 2X, there's a 2 extra small, an extra small, a medium 1, a medium 2, a large, an extra large, a 2XL, a 3XL, a 4XL, a 5XL, and a 6XL. And that is a finished bust circumference ranging from 36.25 inches up to 68.25 inches, and the recommended ease is 6 inches. So that seems very size inclusive. Let's see. So I wanted to knit one with, I wanted this to be like really oversized and drapey, and my chosen finished bust circumference was 51 inches, and that is the size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that was the size 8, which was kind of surprising to me because normally I would knit a size 5 in a pattern, sometimes a size 6, and for 6 inches of positive ease to get a 51-inch finished bust circumference, for it to be the size 8, I was like, okay, definitely need to look at the measurements and make sure you're picking the right size on this one. I think that as I've kind of switched over to the size 7, which has a finished bust circumference of 48.25 inches. I also am using the US 10 needles instead of the 10.75 needles. So I'm still not sure if I'm going to end up going with the finished stitch count of the size 7 or the size 8. So it'll either be the 48.25 inch finished bust circumference or the 51, or it might be somewhere in between if I sort of adjust my raglan increases to give me a finished stitch count in between those two. We will see. But that's my plan for this sweater, and that's how this sweater is going. Before I go, I do have some a spinning finished object and some new spinning that I am starting. So let me share that with you really quick. Okay, so if y'all have been around for a few months, then you will know that I had 2 braids that I wasn't really sure how I wanted to spin them up, and one of them was a very moody, beautiful color called Goosebumps, and it was from Hello Yarn, a club colorway. And then one of them was a club colorway from Nest Fiber from over a year ago or more. And I can't remember what the name of it was. I really liked it, but I didn't think I would knit with it by itself. And so I thought a good way to make sure that I could use it up would be to add it to this really moody club color from Hello Yarn. And what I ended up getting from those 2 braids is this mega hank of a combo spin. So they were both merino, and one was, definitely much lighter and one was much more moody, and I think it gave a really fun combo. I really, really like it. So my plan is to definitely use this. This is 2 braids worth, so I actually haven't counted up my yardage on it yet, and I had some waste from it because I had an issue with my e-spinner that it wasn't the e-spinner's fault, but I sort of ate up some yarn on accident. And anyway, I had a little bit of waste, and because of that, this is probably not like a full 800 grams. I would say that this is ranging from lace weight to DK weight, so probably about a sport weight, and very comparable to dyed in the wool. But I think that I've probably got around 600 yards here, and I think it would be super fun knit up in a shawl or as color work in a sweater. I'm definitely going to use it for something because I am very pleased with it. And I'm very pleased with the colors in it. I think it's really fun. Okay, so I have a planned sweater, and I'm actually going to be spinning for this sweater. So let me show you this acquisition of fiber and my future plans for it. I recently fell in love with Cormo because Anatella from Cozy Posy Yarn Co. very kindly gave me some Cormo fiber, and I've got to tell y'all, it's like the best fiber in the world. I love Cormo. It's a Cormo sheep are a blend of Corriedale and Merino, and it's like the best of both worlds. It's amazing fiber. I love it. And I really wanted to spin for the Morchella cardigan, and that's a pattern by Whitney Hayward. And it's just so pretty. I really, really like it. It looks like an all-over ribbed sweater, but it's actually knit in, what stitch is that? What is that stitch called again? Cartridge rib. So it's worked flat, but it doesn't require any purl stitches when you work it flat. Instead, there's slipped stitches, and it's pretty easy, pretty fast. It sort of reminds me of mosaic knitting, but with only one color. So Anatella from Cozy Posy Yarn Co. dyed me this custom color, and it's called Timeless. It's 100% Cormo fiber sourced in the USA. And look at this. It's like a fluffy dream. So this is the color. I showed her a picture of a color I really, really loved, which was actually from Peace Fleece DK. And I can't use Peace Fleece because it has a mohair in it. But I think it's the color Morning Dove. I'll have to look again. But she created me a colorway that was basically Morning Dove by Peace Fleece, only that I could spin on Cormo. I'm so excited. I love it. So I have started spinning it, and I think it's on my e-spinner in the other room. So I'll probably show that to y'all next time. But I absolutely am loving it. It's a dream to spin. I have 4 braids of it, and I also have a few little pieces of leftovers, or like I'm thinking about pinching off a few little bits of fiber from other braids that have like some rusty orange and some deep purple, and adding almost like little nets of color into my spin here and there, just for some interest. I don't know, I may not do it. I mean, it's so gorgeous as it is, but I thought that might be a little fun to add into this spin. I keep wanting to try new things, and I know I love this because I've already spun a braid of Cormo from her, and it's amazing. I think I'm gonna make a Harlow hat out of it. But I think this is gonna be a really fun spin and knit. So my goal is to knit this cardigan at some point this year. I want to spin for it over the next few months, and I don't want to get in too big of a hurry because I want to really focus on my technique and getting the exact weight that I want for the perfect gauge in this sweater. And I also want to focus on maybe trying some things like adding in a few little bits that I may even do with combo drafting. So not combo spin, but combo drafting. And I don't know, I'm just very excited for it. So thank you, Anatella. All right, that is all I'm gonna chat about for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate the fact that you come back. And if you're new, then I hope you enjoyed spending a little crafty time here. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure and give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, because that way it not only ensures you won't miss out on any future content, but it really helps my channel out so much. As always, thank you for your comments. I love reading what you're up to and your thoughts on what I'm up to. So I really appreciate all of those little notes you leave for me. And until next time, happy knitting, y'all.